We are the Church of the Larger Fellowship, a Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundary, working toward creating a global spiritual community, rooted in profound love, which cultivates wonder, imagination, and the courage to act. Adapting to the COVID-19 pandemic has been difficult for many bricks and mortar congregations. Early on in the pandemic, we were in a unique position to assist many congregations with the transition. We hosted special episodes of The VUU, provided advice and counseling to religious professionals, and trained congregations for live streaming worship, all while providing robust online programming for our members. From worship to covenant groups, from classes to pastoral care, and from our monthly magazine to our letter writing ministry, we have found ways to build connection and community even through the screen. We have been a model for ministry on the margins, providing services for isolated Unitarian Universalists, becoming a spiritual lifeline for our members in prison, and investing in innovative ministry. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed even from a distance. Unitarian Universalists have faced many challenges in these times, and we continue to persevere and to fight for justice and equity for all people, especially during moments of crisis. We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Larger Fellowship. We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of The VUU. The VUU is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective. Every Thursday for the past 7 years, we have welcomed guests from every corner of the world. Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond. I hope today's show inspires you. Hope it builds your faith. Hope it gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life. Enjoy the message.
Greetings, everyone. It is so good to be here at the Voices of Unitarian Universalism, also known as the VUU or the VUU, here with you all, sponsored by the Church of the Larger Fellowship. I'm Michael Tino, one of the lead ministry team of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, coming to you from rainy, cloudy Peekskill, New York in the Hudson Valley of New York, where maybe it's spring again. We had kind of fake spring, and then the vicious return of winter. We had thunder, hail last week, which the daffodils did not enjoy, and it's good to be back with you. I think I'm joined by lots of people, but we are having weird technical issues and are on like plan B or plan C, and so we're so glad that you're here watching our show, Darby and Natalie and everyone else who's out there. I believe I'm joined by Aisha Hauser. How are you out there in Seattle, Aisha?
Hi, hi, Michael. I am here. It's funny. It feels like being in the Matrix a little bit because we're in a different platform. I'm Aisha Hauser, and I'm in Seattle, Washington, and it is, typically cloudy. The thing is about the clouds in Seattle, at least I've experienced, it's a bright cloudiness. So it's not we get some days of gloom, but it's not too gloomy. And I just want to say, I am wearing a bright lipstick and nail polish in honor of one of our guests, Reverend Ashley Horan. I've always admired Ashley's lipstick game. So I figured I'd up my lipstick game today. So I'm very excited. And I'm going to throw this over to DC. How are you, DC? I think.
I don't know. Here I am. I am okay. I am here in glorious South Jersey, where it is gray and cloudy, and I think Michael's got our used weather, like I usually get Christina's used weather. We had sleet yesterday, which offended me at a deeply personal level. But I woke up this morning and it was 60. So who the hell knows what the weather's doing? But yeah, things are okay, and there's a lot going on. I do not have lipstick or nail polish. Trust me, it just looks bad when I try. But I do dearly appreciate it when those who can carry that off do, and I am so glad for all the sparkle that's coming our way today. And now I'm going to hand it back to Michael, I think, for the roundup.
Awesome. I have a bright blue sparkly lipstick here on standby, ready for General Assembly.
That's right.
But that'll be fun. It's good to be with you. So we usually start off our show with a roundup of things happening in Unitarian Universalism. We are aware at 12:14 p.m. Eastern Time, live with you, that it is. I don't even know what we call it, match day among ministers who are in search.
NFL draft.
So draft day. So
It's draft day.
some of our colleagues are getting calls as we speak to you, offering them candidacy with congregations. Some people are waiting by the phone, which is not ringing, and it is painful. Some people know that their phone is not going to ring, and our hearts go out to them. We hope that that everybody finds a match with a congregation where their ministry can flourish.
Yes.
People who appreciate them and treat them well and are treated well in return. What else is going on in our Unitarian Universalist world?
The Ministerial Fellowship Committee. Did I get that right this time, DC? I got
You
it
did.
wrong.
Yes.
Just wrapped
Yes.
up. It is the credentialing body for folks on the way to ordained leadership, and so we celebrate those who received the news they were hoping for, and our hearts are with you if you did not. So
yeah, and we are grateful for all of the work that committee does, because it is largely unsung mountains of paperwork.
And unpaid.
I think
most of the people are volunteers. That includes
we are all volunteers.
Oh, yeah. All volunteers.
And I think because she's been public and sharing this news, that the Church of the Larger Fellowship can formally celebrate that our own learning fellow for prison ministry and community life, Althea Smith, was welcomed into fellowship as a minister.
Yay! Well, that was a no-brainer. Jeez.
Sometimes people are wonderful ministers and don't, for whatever reason, have that come across in their interview. I just want to be open to that, because there are a lot of people who didn't get the news that they wanted who are still wonderful ministers. And who might be wonderful ministers yet. And finding our way home is next week. So I know, Aisha, you're on your way there, as is Chris.
I am on my way there. So actually today I'm on my way to Austin, Texas, to give the charge to the minister at an ordination today for the soon-to-be Reverend Kaya Hartwood. So my journey actually starts in Austin. Then I'm headed to Houston and then California. So yay.
So Finding Our Way Home, for those of you who don't know, is our annual gathering of religious professionals of color. And it is a spiritual, nurturing, wonderful experience for you, I hope.
It is way more than that. And it is not limited to one group, one professional organization. I was actually part of the first group of religious educators. In 2008, there were 7 of us, Jessica York, and I don't remember who the other 6 were, but we joined seminarians and ordained ministers. So I think we were 30 total. And now we only had to limit it this year. Well, actually, Michael will be on. Michael is the coordinator, Michael Crumpler, so can speak more to the what's happening this year. But it is very exciting. So now we have membership, administrators, religious educators, seminarians. So it is genuinely religious professionals, musicians. So it is really
Good.
quite a sacred space, really sacred space. Oh, okay. So somebody asked what the roles are of each of the presenters with the CLF and the UUA. So I am Aisha Hauser. I'm 1/3 of the lead ministry team of the Church of the Larger Fellowship.
And our third, Christina Rivera, is having internet issues, or she would also be here. DC?
I think I'm here for amusement commentary. I am an ordained minister, currently serving the UU congregation of the South Jersey Shore. And I tend to run my mouth a lot and mostly don't offend people, but mostly amuse people. So I think that's why I'm here.
So DC is a volunteer co-host, as Aisha and Chris and I were before we were called to the co-lead ministry at the Church of the Larger Fellowship. So watch out, DC.
Like, we have amazing guests today. Who are they? Who's
We
here
do.
today?
Yes.
We are so excited to be talking about justice making in Unitarian Universalism today. So let me, without further ado, introduce our guest. Reverend Ashley Horan is the organizing strategy director at the UUA, the Unitarian Universalist Association, where she leads the team that holds all the outward-facing justice work of our association under the banner of Side with Love and its related campaigns. And now you can see Ashley, and you know why Aisha put on special fabulous lipstick today. The Reverend Ranwa Hammamy serves as the Congregational Justice Organizer on the Side with Love organizing strategy team, where they work directly with congregations in developing their organizing ministry and capacity. I'm so excited to be here with Ranwa. And the Reverend Michael J. Crumpler works as the LGBTQ and Multicultural Programs Director at the Unitarian Universalist Association, where he serves and supports LGBTQ UUs and the welcoming congregations, as well as multicultural initiatives at the UUA. Welcome, Ashley and Renwa and Michael. It is so good to have you here, and I think you're all live. I think we're all live now. How exciting is this?
Hey, friends!
Hey, everybody.
So Ashley, I'm gonna go to you first. Tell us what's like super most exciting in the Side with Love and related campaigns right now for you.
Couple of things, but first of all, I will say that unfortunately, those of us who do justice work professionally are not going to be out of a job anytime soon. There are just a ridiculous amount of things moving in the world, and we're going to talk specifically about the anti-trans legislation wave that is sweeping the country right now that we're responding to. But we also know that abortion rights and access are totally under attack. Voting rights. What voting rights? We don't need that. SCOTUS is about to make some big decisions about a number of things. And what that means for our work, right, at Side with Love. Side with Love is the banner that holds all of our outward-facing justice work. And we work at the center of that through on our 4 intersectional priorities that the UUA holds. And those are democracy, LGBTQ, gender and reproductive justice, criminalization, and climate justice. And so, no big deal, small umbrellas, lots of stuff falls under those categories. But it turns out they're all deeply interrelated. And so, we run campaigns that are trying to engage Unitarian Universalists in showing up, being in partnership, being skilled and humble partners in creating the world that we dream about. And so I think we're going to talk very specifically about a number of things. But first of all, I just want to hype that UU the Vote 2022 is launching on April 10th. We're going to have a massive, awesome online launch. There will be all sorts of exciting things. We're going to come back to that, tell you all the details materially. But that's one of the most exciting things that's happening right now. Yay!
That's
look at that.
awesome.
The slides are
That's
so
exciting.
good. So good. Yeah. So just, you can, if you're not already on our list, just text that number with Vote Love and you will get all of the information you need to join us.
Excellent. So text Vote
That's very
Love to 866-533-1494 to get information about UU the Vote 2022. We're always trying to UU the Vote, right?
Always, every day.
Awesome. Renwa? You're in the you're in the
I know.
big
I was like,
square. There we
I,
go. So clearly
yeah.
you have exciting things to tell us about too.
Yeah, well, I think like whether it's UU the vote, whether it's one of our other justice issue intersectional priorities that we are working on, our congregations are doing really incredible work working locally with frontline communities and with communities that have been living the values that we hold directly, and I think that local work is what we're really excited to lift up. In the coming months and continue to build capacity. That's part of what my work is with congregations, especially when we're talking about what we'll talk about today when it comes to what we're experiencing with some of the anti-trans legislation happening around the country and the ways in which people are showing up locally, because that's really where a lot of the work is happening and is having an impact. Yeah.
So what if you could pick one thing, because I know I'm feeling super helpless and feeling like, I mean, I do want to show everyone before I forget my shirt, Jingle All the Gay, because now I have to, spend the day saying gay, even though I'm wanting to just really, I mean, I really want to slap people, but I know that's not part of our theology of love.
There are rules. There are rules, they told me.
I mean,
And if you do, people will write many think pieces about
it. Whether or not they should. Let's also include that.
There it is.
So what can we do? Like what, when you say act local, I live in Seattle, and so Seattle has a lot of opportunities to, I know who to call, I know who to write to, I get texts, people are on it. But let's say you live somewhere in a ridiculously red state where there's hostile, people who are passing this legislation really just for attention so they can advance violent extractive capitalism. But what can people do? What does it mean when you say act locally?
Yeah. So go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just agreeing, just making noises in support.
Yeah. So, I think for places where a lot of this legislation is really coming up, there are absolutely communities that are organizing to at least support the trans youth and adults in communities. And I think one of the ways in which our congregations and our communities can show up, or our people can show up, is to really find ways to hold those spaces for folks that need to gather and need to find a place where they know that they are loved and are seen as worthy as they should be seen. And then, when it comes to the advocacy pieces, there are folks organizing nationally with local communities, and we have some great training pieces on that coming up. But to find those equality networks, to find those groups that are actively organizing people, whether they are allies or accomplices or directly impacted trans communities that are working in some of those really fraught locations when it comes to this kind of work. Yeah.
And can I just jump in and say, one of the things that we're learning more and more is there is not a neat divide between red states and blue states on this stuff. Right. Because we're seeing so the three giant issues that the right is mobilizing around right now, because they are making the base foam at the mouth, are trans stuff, abortion access, and CRT, critical race theory. Right. So how do we control people's bodies and minds, basically, is the agenda. And that stuff is happening, as we know well. That's not just state legislature. Of course, watch your state legislatures, but what's the policy of your local school board? What's happening in your city council? If you're, because that can vary dramatically from one suburb to the next, for example, and so this is the moment to really get to know your representatives on that hyper local level. And to make sure that there is infrastructure, whether it's these state equality networks that Renwa was referencing, whether it's making sure that there are, strong networks of parents and public servants who are really deeply committed to defending bodily autonomy and personhood of all people. This is the moment. The right has been organizing for 40 years to make it possible for them to run this in the way that they are running it right now. We got to do better. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now.
It's all right. We're good with soapboxes here. We've all got one standing by just in case we need it. But I want to hear from Michael Crumpler. You are serving, helping our congregations do some internal work too around this. Tell us what's exciting in your world right now.
You're muted, dear.
Oh, we can't hear you. We need to hear you. Okay.
I love it. Yeah.
So that Reverend Michael Crumpler is United Church of Christ. So this is part of our Unitarian Universalist Association, United Church of Christ. Wow, why is the word escaping me? The things we do together. That's not collaborating. That's
Collaboration.
Because
that's the word. Yes.
Our whole lives, we are also collaborating. I knew
if only the technical world of the internet would collaborate with us and letting us hear what Michael Crumpler had to say.
Hear Michael before. Can't hear you, Michael. There was I don't know what we have European UUs on. Christopher Vija's in Paris. I don't know where Aquadita is. So I want to shout out to our domestic, international, worldwide UUs who are watching us today, looking at American politics, which are just wanting to be rooted in hate. So I love the text love. I love that. Like, I'm really appreciative that Unitarian Universalism side of love is about centering how we can care for each other and show up for each other. So I'm not gonna, I really can't promise I'm not gonna slap anyone, but I'm gonna try my best to center love without violence. It's so hard some days. Let's be real. We're, and we're still in a pandemic, so we're all stressed. No one's okay. Don't let anybody tell you they're okay. So this hateful legislation is part of, it's actually a 50-year plan, right? Early 70s, because I was born in 1970.
Yep.
Yes, 50. And it is but it just plays on people's fear and emotions, because we all need to take OWL and be sexually healthy, because then we would not attack people from the LGBTQI community. Okay, thank you.
Right.
Yeah. And
I think we should bring back smiting.
I think a good smiting. Oh, we hear Michael.
We can hear Michael.
Yay! So yes, hello, folks. I hear sort of a repeat, but I'm gonna live with it like an echoey. So, I'm the Reverend Michael Crumpler, the LGBTQ and Multicultural Programs Director at the UUA. I'm just laughing because I'm hearing this in my ear. So a lot of what I do is support the organizing and strategy team, which is the outfacing LGBTQ justice work. And I also support the internal, inward-facing LGBTQ care and community support work. And that includes welcoming congregations, that includes Uplift, our social media platform, showing our support for the LGBTQ community. And that also includes being a part of the UUA's movement towards dismantling white supremacy and fulfilling multicultural initiatives. And so part of that, as was already mentioned, is coordinating Finding Our Way Home, which I leave for on Saturday.
Yay!
So if you are looking at my face and it seems like a film of fatigue is there. It's you're seeing rightly, but it's really great. I'm really excited, and it'll be great to see everyone.
Well, we hope that Finding Our Way Home refills your cup as well as those of your colleagues next week.
I would love for you to explain what welcoming congregation is, because when I first became a Unitarian Universalist many moons ago, and somebody said welcoming congregation, I'm like, oh, isn't that awesome? But then I found out I shouldn't laugh. It's very look, we are all. It means something, not just the expansive word of welcome, which is lovely, but if you would explain that it's actually a thing and how we interpret, we being Unitarian, the UUA, actually, what you mean by welcoming congregation.
Yeah. So to be quite honest, the term is a little outdated. I mean, I think that the Welcoming Congregations program began in the early 90s, really at a time when it was very critical for institutions, churches, essentially religious institutions, to kind of be out loud about being in solidarity with the LGBTQ community, largely because of HIV and AIDS. There were a lot of deaths. People were trying to find grief support. Can we bury my son here, and so forth and so on. And then there was a movement of congregations saying, yes, you can do that here. Yes, you're welcomed here. And so it's sort of grown. Of all the welcoming faiths, Unitarian Universalism has the highest percentage of welcoming congregations. We're at like 90% of congregations that have officially been recognized as welcoming. And essentially what that means is that you have really done some internal structural work, done some religious education work, and done some outreach work. The structural work is like bylaws, welcoming statements, ensuring that you have non-discrimination employment policies and so forth, that they explicitly include support of the LGBTQ community, and that and then the religious education piece is the obvious things, just making sure that we're aware of what people need, who people are, and how to, connect. And then the outreach piece is, gay marriage. That's a joke. I mean, it's not a joke, but it's a joke because that's all we've done.
I have a question about that sort of certification status, right? The merit badge that happened for a while, where churches all would get the little rainbow sticker and they put it on their sign, like, woohoo, look at us. So when's that updated? Like, because there's a whole bunch of gender stuff that a lot of our folks are like, we're a welcoming congregation, but there's only two genders.
Yeah. Similar to being an anti-racist congregation and only white people. So like,
there it is.
I'm gonna need some sun after all that shade, Michael.
There's two phases. There's becoming a welcoming congregation, which is a commitment. I was raised in the South. I'm Baptist. It's like a once saved, always saved, and in sanctification. That may be too theologically high of a joke, but you become a welcoming congregation. You become a welcoming congregation, and that's what's been done. Now we have what we call the 5 practices of welcome renewal, which is an annual, commitment to always be welcoming by offering welcoming worship services, providing welcoming religious education, and celebrating days of observance. Like today is Transgender Day of Visibility. So there's that. Just encouraging congregations to do those things. But one of the things that was missing for years is that the UUA wasn't necessarily producing curriculum or any kind of content and being in a relationship with congregations. So a big part of the 5 practices of welcome renewal is that I offer orientations every month. I pretty much have them on a first name basis with a lot of people in congregations that are doing this work at the committee level. Also, making sure that our website is updated with current content. There's some old content there, so don't go now and test me. But there's also current content there that's modern and relevant, and the things that we are doing, let's say with Silent Love, are connected to welcoming congregations so that folks have the resources they need. Now, we can't make folks do all the things that we want them to do, but we can provide them with all the tools and resources. And so the 5 practices of welcome renewal is about doing that.
So I want, it's 12:37 already. The time flies when we're having fun and engaged with interesting guests. But I understand that there's a training tonight about engaging with anti-trans legislation, and I'm wondering if I just want to get to the nuts and bolts for for a little while. If there's a training tonight, I want people to know about it.
Yeah.
Can someone tell me more about that? What's going on and how people might engage with that?
Yeah, so I can start us off if y'all are cool with that. So we have a training. We're working closely with the Trevor Project, who has been, doing a lot of really great research, a lot of really great organizing and engagement around these different pieces of legislation. And so actually was it just last week or a couple weeks ago, we had sort of a combating anti-trans legislation 101 webinar with them. And out of that, we then knew that folks are asking for this, folks are needing this training. So we're actually having a spokesperson training that will give folks the tools and the opportunity to actually practice what it means to speak up for trans lives and to advocate for worth, dignity, and welcome, and for the communities that are being attacked by this legislation. Aisha, you were mentioning slap violence, and these pieces of legislation are violence against our trans bodies and our trans lives. And so what we are doing here is fighting back. And so this will be an opportunity for folks to really engage with the real strategy that is needed to address the ways in which this legislation has been coming for people for decades, and to be able to speak more effectively than I am right now on these different pieces of legislation as they're affecting themselves, their loved ones, their communities. And so we're really excited to have folks join us. And I've been looking at the slides that we have for tonight, and it's really exciting. So I really encourage folks to sign up. If you are just, how do I do it? Show up to this training is a really great first step. So.
Can I say two?
Can we put?
Please.
Sorry, and then you can ask a question. Number one, I just want to push UUs doing this training, both because absolutely we've got to throw down for our trans kin, but also because we tend to be a very religiously, a lot of us carry religious wounds from former parts of our lives. We tend to be very anti-evangelical, speaking publicly about our values. And y'all, we got to get over that. This is a moment for us to show up, articulate our faith, connect our politics and our values. And this is a great way to practice that. So that's the first thing. Second thing I want to say is that this training is specifically going to focus on allies, cisgender folks, or who are speaking from a perspective of loving trans people and being in relationship with trans people, but not about personal stories. And the reason we are starting with that, there will be a training for folks who are identify as trans or non-binary and want to speak about their own stories. But the reason we're starting here is because, and this is super complex, what's working right now in combating this legislation is cis people speaking. And we can unpack a whole lot of that. But if we want to be of use, the first place that we have been told by our partners and by these local organizations that are fighting these fights is that cis folks have to show up and get trained and be effective in this way. Now I'll shut. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, Tisha Nesbitt in our chat asked if we register for the training, is it accessible via recording? But Nicole Presley, who is on your team, is in the chat too and says that you plan on recording it. So I just wanted to make sure that
coming at you from all angles today.
So good.
It's awesome. Welcome, Nicole. We're glad you're engaged with us live.
Can I make a pitch? So I live in Seattle, and I just got a few copies of the Black Trans Prayer Book.
Amazing.
There are poems and prayers and reflections, and it's by Jay Mace and Lady Dane Figueroa Aditi. And religious communities, it is especially those who are centering love and affirmation of lives. Get yourself the Black Trans Prayer Book. You can actually Google it and it'll come right up. So apologies, I don't have the link, but I wanted to remember to lift up the book, especially today, but always, because trans people are divine and sacred and holy and whole. So we let's remember there are people, we know that there are people at the center of this and being used in a political fight. So thank you for your work.
And along with that, I mean, I love that we're here talking about internal, community as well as outward facing justice together, which is one of the reasons why I love my job so much. But one of the best ways that we can support the trans community is to be welcoming. to be welcoming in our communities. It really get folks heated when they see us out in the streets, but don't feel at home in our pews, in our congregations. And so one of the ways that you can really and for me, right, when I'm in community with those who are most impacted, while I'm also fighting alongside for their dignity and respect, it just makes it so much easier when I'm in a relationship with those people. They can do it and say it and be it so much better than I can. And so the more we do the work within our congregations, the more we are aware of what's happening, and the more and the less we have to kind of like, you know, ramp up to do all this education. So the front line is really in our congregation. So it's so important that we connect.
Michael, you're speaking to a question that Gary asked in our chat a little bit, but you know, like welcoming is maybe not the best word for what we seek to be.
Right.
Like it's a low bar. Like we welcome you is a low bar. And Gary asked, are there resources that enable congregations to go beyond being welcoming to becoming sustaining, like to actually like lift up lives of LGBTQ people, of BIPOC folks, and I know that many of the practices that you are asking congregations to engage in the welcoming, the 5 practices of welcome are really, they're not about just welcome, we're so glad you're here, but we're transforming our entire community to be a place where you can be spiritually sustained and uplifted and whole. Right?
Yeah. So in short, you know, the name, I think that you know, it's a bit balanced between like tradition and familiarity. Then with new initiatives, I personally feel like we do too many new things too fast all the time. And if we can just do the basic things well, that we would still accomplish the things. And so I know that even in we have, you know, dismantling white supremacy, the Commission on Institutional Change work, we have a lot of new things going on. So as one who's in the middle of those things, I was reluctant to say, and let's rename the whole Welcoming Congregations program. I do believe that welcoming is a low bar. I also, you know, feel like we can, you know, just kind of focus on improving it and doing the things around belonging without changing the name. But I'm all for changing the name to kind of encapsulate that. It's just a lot.com to do that nomenclature and a lot of other things.
If that URL isn't claimed by now, you need to claim that.
Oh man, right?
Perfect.
to like rebrand the entire thing, instead of just improving it. So the 5 practices of welcome renewal is sort of fulfills that goal, Gary, of really going deeper and being consistent in our welcome.
And you know, I also want to plug in that there are some other ways that we can do that. Like the 5 practices of welcome renewal are absolutely do that. And one of the things that I don't know if this is part of them, but there is actually a community that Adrian Ballou, who works with the UUA is it LGBTQ and Gender Justice Fellow, I think is their title.
Yes.
And so there's the Uplift community that is for our trans and genderqueer UUs to come together and get support. And Michael, you would probably speak a little bit more in detail about that. But, you know, that's a place where for those of us that identify as trans or genderqueer, gender nonconforming, gender meh, as sometimes myself and my
Gender
spouse like to call
fabulous.
ourselves. I'm like gender goblin right now today. But the like that space is available for folks to have community and you know to receive that support. And there are also, you know, we have trans UUs that are also supporting each other and supporting our congregations. We have the Transforming Hearts Collective as another way that congregations can get some of that support and you know get some of that training as well. And so there's a range of different ways that congregations can do this. And I'll also speak just as an individual. Like many of us in ministry, I've got a side hustle. I work as a chaplain part-time. And one of the things you can do is also in your work, advocate for people in different ways. I just trained a bunch of chaplains yesterday on gender and sexual orientation, and
Bless you.
And there's some work that you can do in your own roles outside of advocacy at the Capitol or in your city council, but in your direct relationships with people, educate folks, get folks like aware of what's really happening and who people really are. Yeah.
Right. And don't rely on us trans folks to do it for you.
Yes. Here's low-hanging fruit. Have all your bathrooms be gender neutral, folks. I don't care what congregation you're in. Get over yourselves. Your bathrooms at home are gender neutral. Make your bathrooms in any brick and mortar congregation you belong to be gender neutral. There's simply zero reason not to. If the urinals are freaking you out, then tape them over and don't let anyone use them, and use the stalls. Like, get over it. Like, that to me.
Put a potted plant in it.
Put a potted plant. Bees. I don't give a shit what you do. Like, when we start the conversation about making bathrooms gender neutral, the pearl clutching and the ridiculousness, even among people on the left, whatever the fuck that means, is so gross. And I remind people, do you have gendered bathrooms in your home? Because the answer is no. So that's a low-hanging fruit that every single congregation today can do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. I did preach that sermon this Sunday at Unitarian Universalist Church of Studio City.
Yes, you did.
Jim Crow, talking about the way we treat trans folks and the way and the bathroom controversy, and it goes really back to what Ashley sort of mentioned, which is a lot of these violent, fascistic, harmful, unnecessary, irresponsible laws and that are being that are just being put in place in Texas and Florida and many other places, and in your local liberal little community are it's a political strategy. And I know that with the Don't Say Gay bill, if you really, really dig down deep into it, there's really no there, and there's very little to litigate if someone is, but the harm that is done is just really all of the dust, getting everybody upset, making people feel unsafe, causing people to be at each other's throats. But the actual legislation is really digging down, not a lot of there. And so I think that that's where communities are really, really important. It is so important to surround our people and be caring. And if you're not willing to respect pronouns, and if you're not willing to respect folks' biological needs within community, it's really difficult to show up for people in the streets without knowing those. Literally, as I was preaching on Sunday, a TERF came into the chat and was private chatting me during my sermon in a UU congregation, attacking me as I'm preaching a sermon about trans folks. And so we have a lot of work to do, folks. And when these folks come with these very, 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 very sophisticated arguments of harm, we have to know who we are, know what we believe, and know how to articulate our values and beliefs.
Amen.
And I think go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say, if you are doing your work around trans inclusion and LGBTQ inclusion, you are not going to be brilliant and skilled at doing that kind of work if you are not also doing anti-racism work, if you are not also doing disability justice work, right? Like these are not separate from each other. And any of them can be an on-ramp, but like what happens is that we flex and we grow our muscles of our ability to just be in community with people who are different than we are, our ability to like really think deeply about what we take for granted is just the way things are and what is cultural. And when we do that work as praxis, right? This 5 practices of welcome and renewal that are different than the nice triangle sticker on the wall. When we're engaged in that work over time, over and over again, through anti-racism, through pro-LGBTQ work, through pro-disability work, like we get better at all of it.
Well,
Thank you.
It's a constant practice of examining who is being invited into the center, who is being centered in your work, who is being marginalized in your work, and that means if you have a bathroom in your space too, right, in your physical space. Like CLF does not have a bathroom. So we rely on the gender neutral bathrooms in our members' homes.
You keep your potted plant.
You have thousands of them.
We have thousands of bathrooms all around the world. But if your church has a bathroom, if your congregation has a bathroom, then it's all or steps to get into the front door, right? You talk about disability justice or
Put a ramp.
But then it's also about like what are the readings we use and what are the hymns that we use and how do we invite people into to be spiritually uplifted by the work that we do, and are we centering whose voices are being centered in that too? And you constantly have to be asking yourself that question, because once you stop asking the question, you stop growing. Right? You fall back on old patterns. So
well, and it okay. When people get me.
Come on, Aisha, come on.
When I've people get upset at missing fucking Thoreau and Emerson and whoever the fuck. It's like, you know what, folks? There are more than just dead white men that we can learn from. And that
there are.
Yep.
Right?
Well, we can learn from them, all right.
Sorry to surprise you, Michael.
I wonder how many of our people think Buddha was white.
Oh, how about white Jesus was Buddha. Jesus was white. It's such and Swedish. Jesus wasn't just white, but Swedish somehow.
Right? Oh yeah, blonde,
blue-eyed. Come on, it's just because the thing is Unitarian Universalism. Here's the thing: white people who want to learn from other white people still have a lot of spaces to do that. So Unitarian Universalism can be the place where we work to center those whose humanity has been taken away, whose humanity is literally fucking being targeted by the state. Right. There are people in Rome saying, how do we attack children? What is happening to the soul of this country that we have put children in cages, black and brown children? We shoot children who are sitting on swings. We murder them, black children. We put indigenous children in schools and bury them, and hundreds of years later we find out. Come on, what the fuck? Imperialism and colonialization. This is a cancer on our collective souls. So Unitarian Universalism, this is about fighting for the lives of people who've been targeted. I mean, this is so when I hear white people whine about language and fucking missing some bullshit hymn that I hate, that's like a dirge. Like, I'm sorry. Like, go to a Presbyterian church that's still doing that shit. I don't know, but like, let's live into more closely who we say we Unitarian Universalists say we want to be in the world.
Yeah, yeah. And as one who comes out of that, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that we need to remember that this is not a political agenda. It is a terrorism agenda.
Yes. Yes.
It is a terrorism agenda designed, like Michael described, to keep the dust in the air, right? To get everybody freaked out and running in circles. And this has been happening not since Nixon, not since Reagan, but since ever in North America. There's a book called How the Irish Became White. You're familiar with it? And it talks about how what ended up, and this is a backdoor way into this thing, is that where the Irish immigrants came, largely Boston and New York, the powerful political leaders at the time were Unitarians. Who learned that if they realized that if the Irish actually aligned themselves with the abolitionists and with the enslaved people who were seeking justice and freedom and just out of the shit, right? They understood that if the Irish, who understood what it was to have England's boot on their throat, if they combined their forces, the powers that were in position at that time would be toast. And so they developed a very clear, very intentional plan to keep the minorities at each other's throats. Because if we're busy trying to kill each other, we're too busy to realize that we're being screwed by the power structure that exists, you know? And so it's not a new thing. It is in the foundational DNA of this nation.
Yes.
And until we, and it's, you know, it's going to be, this is one of those things where it's going to take those of us who do intersectional work to form coalitions and stop yelling at each other because this person isn't trans enough, or that person isn't black enough, or this person isn't whatever, right? Just stop that shit and get ourselves together and organize. It will be realized that we are the majority that we are.
Yeah.
So
And
DC,
then we can do some significant real work.
We have 1 minute left, and I want some of our guests to have the last word on our show. And Ranwa, I think you have a way to bring this back.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm so grateful for DC for bringing up that this is historically what we've done. You know, Ashley mentioned that we're seeing this happen in multiple avenues. We're seeing this happening with like CRT, with abortion, with trans lives. You know, you'll hear folks talk about this. People are attacking our trans kids because it's a wedge issue. It's an issue intended to divide us, as they have continuously tried to divide us for generations. And this is our time to say, I'm going to use the holy F word. Fuck that. We are done with it. We are done being divided. And so that's actually, you know, when we're talking about how we organize in all of these different ways and how they're all connected, that's what we are strategizing for as the organizing strategy team, as Unitarian Universalists, living our values out loud. And so when we're talking about, you know, our UU the Vote launch, I'm going to plug it. Our UU the Vote launch on April 10th, we're going to be organizing in a way that says we are not going to let you use our kids, our people, as a wedge to divide people and to get folks with some backwards thinking that need some real hard education, maybe a couple of slaps, Aisha. We're not going to let you use that to divide us. We're going to come together and we're going to claim our power, and we're going to get ourselves the rights that we deserve, the rights that we know we are worthy of, that we are born with. And so that's what I'm going to say before I drop a few more choice F-bombs in this conversation. But, you know, if people are trying to divide us, enough. And so this is an opportunity for us to come together and say, all of this that you're trying to do to hurt us, no, we're coming together, we're claiming our power, y'all are on your way out. Done.
Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to those of you who give generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible. You can click the link in the description to give now, or visit CLFUU.org/give for more information. We hope you will join us next week for another episode of The VUU.